Okay, I think everyone that was coming has officially gotten here by now. Hopefully no one's not behind a racer right now trying to get here. We have lots of fish to talk about, so they will learn at least about one fish today. Is it anyone's first time here? Anybody? Welcome. Well, if anyone's not familiar with the organization, we're Cape Fear River Watch. Our mission is to improve and protect the quality of the Cape Fear River for all people. We do that through education, like this. We do advocacy work. We sue a lot of people. And we do action. We're not doing much action right now because it's a little too cold, but we do litter cleanups once a month. We do water quality monitoring. We're out in the community a lot. And Saturdays are a big day for us. So in the new year, if you're free on Saturdays, keep us in mind. We do the seminar every first Saturday of the month. We do our litter cleanups on the second Saturdays and third Saturdays. When it's decent weather too, we go paddling together. So regardless of how you like to protect the river, how you like to get out on the river, we have a little something for everybody to get involved. Couple of announcements before we get to the fish. We have our annual membership meeting tomorrow. If you've never been, it's normally a presentation, but this year we're actually just kind of doing a get-together. So it'll be at Front Street Brewery tomorrow from 3 to 5. And we'll have hors d'oeuvres, there'll be beer, and hopefully just some good community and kind of just talk about what went wrong and what went right this year and kind of what we're doing into the new year, just being thankful together. So if you want to come, you're welcome to. You do not have to be a member of Cape Fear River Watch. If you want to be a member of Cape Fear River Watch, I can get you signed up today. If you are a member of Cape Fear River Watch and you need to renew, I can also do that with you today. Just feel free to come tag me down. Secondly, wanted to say a big thank you to anyone who donated to our Giving Tuesday campaign. We raised $4,900 and some change dollars for our community science program, Creek Watchers. This is our first time that we've actually done a specific ask for Giving Tuesday, so we were really pleased to see that people cared specifically about the Creek Watchers program. We have a Creek Watcher in the house, Lisa Malone, so shout out to her. And I don't know where she is right now, I can't see, but yeah, shout out to her. So you guys are helping her and our other Creek Watchers continue the important work they do in the new year. If you have not made a year-end gift yet, I can also get you started with that. There's still time to fuel our fight for the Cape Fear River into the new year. We do a lot for the river, and I'm welcome to talk to you a little bit about what we do and how you can support that work. But if you are interested in making that year-end gift, either for yourself or you want to do like a gift membership for someone you love, you can talk to me. I think that's all I got. To Fritz.
Thank you. Well, hopefully I won't bore you too much or take too long of your time this morning, but I got a lot to talk about. My name is Fritz Rohde, and I'm going to talk today about my 50-plus year love affair with North Carolina and its fishes, not just freshwater, but saltwater also. I've been very fortunate in my career to work in both arenas. A little bit of background about myself. My first job out of college was working up in Delaware Bay, as part of a nuclear power plant study as being built at the time. And I was there 3 years, and I made a visit to North Carolina with a buddy of mine, and it was like love at first sight. And I said, I got to get down here. And fortunately, in August of 1974, I arrived in Morehead City to work for the UNC Marine Science Institute. My professor, Frank Schwartz, had gotten a grant to study the fishes and macroinvertebrates of the lower Cape Fear River as part of the building of the nuclear power plant at Southport. And so I spent 3 years down there, and that old guy right there, Peter Perschbacher, was also there with me. And we gave a talk a couple of years ago on fish of the lower Cape Fear and the power plant studies we did. So I spent 3 years doing that, and I realized that I really needed to do something more with my career if I wanted to advance it beyond just being a grunt in the field. So I went up to Chapel Hill, got my master's, and I thought, here I am, world, I'm ready to go. But nobody else recognized my greatness at the time. So I did a little excursion outside the state for a few years, 2 years in North Georgia teaching at a private boarding school. And then 2 years up in Boston working for an environmental consulting firm. And I did get to North Carolina during that time as part of my job, but also kept coming back to the state because I started some studies on little fish when I was here in the 70s. So even though I was not physically here, I was coming down quite often. And then in June of '83, I got a job with the North Carolina Division of Marine Fisheries here in Wilmington, based in the Southern District. And I started out working as a technician, sampling the commercial snapper grouper boats that fished offshore. Did that for a few years, and then I worked up the ladder, biologist, and then I was a biologist supervisor, and my long-suffering supervisor, Rich Carpenter, was with me all 25 years of that. We got along great. He let me do what I wanted to do, and I covered his back, and we got along fine. So I did that for 25 years, and I enjoyed it. I love this area. We did from New River down to the state line, inshore fisheries, and even offshore a little bit. But I turned to 60 years old and had 25 years in, and I could leave if I wanted to. Really didn't want to. But a job opened up with the NOAA fisheries up in Beaufort, at the Beaufort lab. And it was dealing with migratory fish in the southeast, dealing with dams, hydropower dams, and the like. And I thought, well, this sounds pretty good. So I applied for it, and I got it. And the fastest 16 and a half years of my life just blew by me, and I retired. Last December, I decided I was finally old enough to retire, and I was tired, and I had accomplished what I could with migratory fish and dams, and the projects I had left over were never going to get funded. So I said, okay, I'm done. I'm out of here. But, after doing this kind of work for 40-something years and being associated with somebody, I had this need to have an affiliation to make me feel like I'm important still. And I've had a research associate with UNCW. Really doesn't mean much. It's just I'm able to serve on graduate committees if they need me, or to help out with anything they need. So that gives me my official affiliation. And then the bottom one is one I've been active in. It sounds very impressive. The North American Native Fishes Association. Well, it is the nationwide group. We do have international members too, but we're hobbyists, we're professionals, we're fishermen. It's a conglomeration of different interests, and we put out a quarterly publication, which is kind of nice. And we have about half a dozen members that live in the Wilmington area, and Peter's one of them. But this is sort of my background, but I'm here to talk about fish. And today's talk is going to rely heavily upon 2 publications and then a website. In the upper left is something that we published in 2020. It's an annotated atlas of North Carolina freshwater fishes. Bryn Tracy is a retired biologist from the Division of Water Quality, and his job when working was to survey fishes across the state. So he had a wide background. Now, you may notice there's no Fritz up here. You see a Fred. At birth, my parents gave me the name Fred. And there's already 2 in the family, my dad and my grandfather. So since we're of Germanic background, Fritz was a good, easy way, and I love the name Fritz. But when I publish, I go by Fred. And then Gabriella Hogue, she is the collection manager up in Raleigh at the museum up there. So 3 of us put together this atlas, and you can download it from the Southeastern Fishes Council page. It's been so popular, it's been downloaded over 5,000 times. So unfortunately, we don't get any money off that, but it's really makes us feel good. But then that led naturally to the thing on the right, which came out in March of '24. And this was published by UNC Press. I've been involved with 2 other Fishes of books. One was 1994, Fishes of North Carolina, et cetera, et cetera. And then 2009, Fishes of South Carolina. this by far is the best book I've been involved with, and probably because Bryn was the lead author on it. He really did a good job with us. We added 2 other people to our list, Scott Smith and Jesse Bissett. They work at the Division of Marine Fisheries in Moorhead, and they are superb photographers. In fact, when I did the South Carolina book, I did all the photographs for it, and I thought I was a pretty decent photographer. But then I started seeing their work in about 2011. I went, oh, these guys are really good. So I contacted them to see how they did it, and we went out and they showed me. And they were going to the same places I did back in the 70s to catch fish to photograph. And I said, well, why don't you guys contact me? And they said, well, we knew you're retired, and we thought you were done with fish. And I went like this, no, I'm not done yet. I've got a pulse here still. So we've been great colleagues ever since. Scott and I, we travel to the Amazon. We go all over the United States taking photographs of fishes. And then the bottom left is a site that Scott and Jesse started. It's a website, ncfishes.com, where we discuss freshwater and saltwater fishes in North Carolina. So these 3 things have sort of formed the basis of what I'm talking about today. So this is mainly focused on the Cape Fear, and of course the question is, where's the Cape Fear Basin? And I'm thinking, you're all thinking, you dummy, it's right outside here, across the street. But for those of you who don't know where the Cape Fear is, it's right in here. It's the longest river contained inside North Carolina. It's the only Atlantic flowing river that dumps in straight to the ocean rather than going through a sound. It heads up, there's 2 main branches, the Haw River up above Greensboro, comes down this way, and then you got the Deep River going over this way towards Sanford in that area. And they join up around Jordan Lake and come on down. Major tributaries are the Black and South Rivers in Sampson County, and then the Northeast Cape Fear. I'm going to include the White Oak today, which is up around Jacksonville and Swansboro, Morehead City, and then Shallotte, Waccamaw, because there's some really cool fish over there, and then the Lumber, because for the same reason, there's some cool fish over here. So I'm talking about fishes in this general area. Now, when we did the book, we documented 258 fishes in the book. Not all of them are technically freshwater fishes. Of the 258, there are 17 that are considered estuarine or brackish, but they do commonly get into freshwater, and we wanted to include them in the book because people are out there, they might pick up something, it's not in the book. It can't be a freshwater fish, or it's something new. So hopefully anything you encounter, you'll find in the book. And I got to back up a step. Self-promotion here. I got some signed copies of the book up here. $30 cash or check. I'll take either. Oh, there's my Vanna White. Yeah. And all the photographs you're going to see are in that book that were done mostly by Jesse and Scott, although I did sneak a few of mine in there. But getting back to the Cape Fear, we're in this area, including the Cape Fear, we're in 3 physiographic provinces. Of course, we're all in the coastal plain. You know, it's all flat. And, back. There. Nice and flat and floods easily when the hurricanes come. And then the Piedmont is above, this is the fall line, this dotted line. And it's where the transition between the coastal plain and fat fingers occur. But we don't have any mountain in our basins, but we do have a really unique area called the Sandhills, which is over by the Fayetteville, Fort Bragg, Aberdeen, Southern Pines area. This historically, geologically, was ancient shoreline when the ocean was much higher. And there are a couple of fish that are only found in the Sandhills of North Carolina and South Carolina. So this is the river basins, cut off by the lights a little bit. But of the 258 fishes that are in the state, 125 occur in the Cape Fear. Of the 125, 13 we consider to be the estuarine brackish ones. And I broke down by whether they're native or where they got introduced either by man or natural introduction or whatever. And you can see the other river basins, what they have and which river systems they include. The white oak has one unique, well, semi-unique one to it. Shallot doesn't really have, well, has another semi-unique. Waccamaw with the Lake Waccamaw is a special gem over in Columbus County. And then the Lumber River, it's what they have, 63, about half. 125 species in the Cape Fear is about 48% of the what the state total is. Now I want to start off with what I worked on for the last 16 plus years, which are the migratory fishes. This could be a whole talk, but it's going to be a real fast one on this one. Collectively, they're called diadromous, but you may break them down into two categories. Anadromous, which are the 5 at the top and the lamprey over here. These are fish that spawn in fresh water, and the young or juveniles will migrate out in the ocean where they spend the rest of their life to grow up to adulthood, come back to fresh water to spawn, and either die or do the cycle over again. These two down here are considered catadromous fishes in that they do the reverse. They spawn out in the ocean, the young come up into our fresh waters where they mature, and then they go back out in the ocean to spawn. Near and dear to my heart are the sturgeon, the Atlantic and short nose. The Atlantic is our most common one we have here. Fred Scharf at UNCW and Jake Matthews are doing some terrific studies in the Cape Fear on this fish, trying to find out where they spawn, when they spawn. We maybe have spring spawners, may have a population that fall spawns, etc. The short nose, I mean, I have been around a while, so the number of these fish you're seeing that either I found the first specimen in North Carolina, or maybe the second one or something like that, and I thought I had uncovered the first one down in the Cape Fear. Prior to 1985 or so, there was only one specimen of short nose known from North Carolina. It was up in the tributary of the Kashai River up in the northeast part of the state. Well, I was talking to a commercial fisherman who actually fished for sturgeon in Maryland. He kept telling me there's 2 species here, and I said, no, there's not. There's only one. Mr. Know-it-all here. I've been here like 1 year. So I said, prove it. Well, he called me one day, and I went over to Leland, and he lived on Sturgeon Creek, and he had this fish over there. And I went, whoa. So I was really proud of myself. I documented the first short nose from the state. And then that prompted the Army Corps engineers to do some studies, and they found a few more in the Cape Fear. Well, going back to the UNC part of my job, they had a big fish museum, and they sent it up to Raleigh when Frank Schwartz retired. And there was a sturgeon in there that Wayne Starnes, the ichthyologist there, looked at and said, that's a short nose. And so I was not the first. Peter Perschbacher and his colleague got a dead one in the gill net in the Cape Fear River in 1977 or something like that. So he beat me to the punch on this one. But so he gets credit for the first one. But the neat thing about the short nose, it was on the first endangered species list. And so that prompted a lot of studies on it. And my old agency, the Marine Fisheries, they put transmitters, acoustic transmitters, into two sturgeon back short nose in 2012, caught off of here. One was a female with ripe eggs, and the other one had already done her spawn. We never knew if this species was a resident or what to this river because there are so few of them. Well, what those 2 fish did is they left the Cape Fear River. They went all the way down to the Altamaha River, and the one with the ripe eggs went way up to Altamaha, presumably to spawn, came back down, and within a month she was back in the Cape Fear River. So the thinking now is that this species is not a resident, it's just like a tourist. Comes up here every once in a while to check things out. And it also happens, Atlantic sturgeon, we know we're getting spawning here, but based on acoustic transmitters, we know that there's a lot of sturgeon from other rivers come down here to visit also, and then they go back to spawn. And then a lot of my career was spending trying to get shad and blueback herring up above the dams. We've been successful. The rock arch ramp works really well for these guys. The sea lamprey, most people don't know anything about. You hear a lot of bad stories how it's really hurt the fisheries in the Great Lakes. Well, it has, but it's an invasive species there. Here it's part of the ecosystem. It's not a problem at all. And then with my hydropower work, did a lot of work on eels, trying to get eels past dams. We have eel ladders, eelways up Roanoke Rapids at the dam there. We've passed millions of eels past that thing. This is, whoops, a fish probably nobody's ever heard of. Again, I thought I caught the first one back in 1975. We were working out of Southport. If we got in early enough, we would run off, at least I would run off into the swamp and see what I could find. And we picked up one of these down near Supply in Royal Oak Swamp. So I thought I had, I was Mr. Hotshot here. I got the first one. Well, when we did the atlas, all the museum records are now computerized. And we discovered a fish at Yale that was caught in 1938 up in the Albemarle Sound area. So again, I was the number 2 on this one. And we've got another one up around the White Oak. It's common in Puerto Rico and Central American streams. It gets about up to 6 inches or so, bait, sport fish. But we're at the northern end of the range, and it's kind of a hit or miss thing up here. Now, the rest of the talk is going to be going from what we call more primitive fish up into the more evolutionary advanced ones. And these top 2 are really common fish in the lower Cape Fear area. Long-nosed gar, if you've ever been out in the river, you've probably seen large schools of these things. Or if you've ever fished a gill net, you've got a lot of these things. They have a place. I mean, a lot of people think they're garbage or rough fish, and they kill them, throw them away. Don't do that. They have a place in our ecosystem to keep all the little smaller ones that reproduce like crazy, keep them under control. The bowfin is really common in our swamps. It's a subsistence fish for a lot of people. And the bottom 2 they're in the threadfin herring family now. It's been split out from other stuff. They get the name from the little thread on the back of the dorsal fin. This fish has it too, the gizzard shad, but it's slapped along the side where you really can't see it. These are common schooling fish, common prey fish for the larger things. We do have some nasties. These are they used to be in the umbrella family of Saprindidae, and now they're in their 2 separate families. You may have heard about the Asian carp in the Midwest that's causing a lot of problem. The grass carp is a member of that family called the shark bellies now. It's stocked in a lot of retention ponds for the control of vegetation. We've always been concerned about getting out in the wild, and it does get in the wild, but they stock triploid, which means they really shouldn't be able to spawn. There's some doubt about that. And of course, the common carp is everywhere. It was introduced in the 1800s for food, and then the goldfish, aquarium release type things. But these are 2 different families. They're Asian type origin, but we do have a native North American true minnows. Now, a lot of people call any little fish a minnow. That's not correct. Don't do that. It could be a little pike. It could be a little sunfish. It's not a minnow. The true minnows are these guys, which I'll be showing you now. And there are 27 species within our basin, but this is the most common family in North Carolina. The bluehead chub at the upper left is a really cool fish. It's not down in our part of the state, but up around the Piedmont and throughout the rest of North Carolina. This is a male, breeding male, has tubercles on its head, these white things, and they use them to spar with other males. They use them to attract females, and these fish make mounds, and these mounds attract females, of course, but they also attract other species of minnows to spawn on. So in the spring, particularly in the Piedmont Mountains, you'll find mounds of these guys with swarms of little reddish fish all over around them spawning. The golden shiner upper right is a very common bait fish. It's probably the most widely distributed minnow in North Carolina, from the coast to the mountains. The creek chub on the left is another really common fish in the Piedmont primarily, up in the headwaters. But it has a cousin, the sandhills chub, right there, that is endemic or unique to the sandhills of North Carolina and South Carolina only. That's the only place it's found. It's found in the extreme headwaters of the streams there. It's often the only species of fish found in these streams. And the threats it faces, particularly over in the Aberdeen Southern Pines area, is development. You know, golf courses, I've got to build ponds. Beavers like to make dams and build ponds, and that's a major threat to this thing. But so far, it's hanging on there. It's not. It has some state protection, but not any kind of federal protection. We do have some pretty ones in our basin. Not as much as in the mountains. You get to the mountains, you get some really gorgeous red and orange ones, yellow ones. But the mountain red-bellied dace is one of our stars. It's only up in the upper Piedmont part of our basin, as is the rosy-side dace. Same thing, it's only up there. The rosefin shiner, the bottom right, it's another Piedmont fish. But we do have one jammed down here in the coastal plain, which is the taillight shiner. It's at its northern part of its range here in southeastern North Carolina. And even though it's gorgeous, I cannot go out at any one time and catch this thing. It disappears. I can go in May, go over to Lake Waccamaw to the canals, and I can usually get some breeding individuals, but that's the only time I can guarantee you'll see one. But it goes down into South Carolina, into the Gulf Coast area. Very pretty fish. And then a lot of my friends, fishy friends, who don't want to get too involved, they say any fish with a black stripe, minnow with a black stripe, is just one species. But they're not. These are 4 of them. And I'll have to cut the bottom of the shiner off. But these are 4 shiner species that occur in our basin. The dusky is the upper right, is very attractive, makes good aquarium fish. Iron colors down here in the coastal plain swamps. But these are everywhere. And they make, you can tell them apart from the number of anal rays or the pigment patterns on them and stuff. And we do have one, which is the Cape Fear shiner. It's federally endangered. The map on the right, which is one of the maps in the book, shows where it had been found. Now, it's not there at all those red dots right now. Right now, it only occurs in the Haw and Deep rivers, which are up in, that's the Deep right there, and the Haw up this way, right below Jordan Lake. They are taking dams out of the Deep River. The Carbonton Dam's been taken out, and a couple more have been taken out, which will reconnect the populations of the Cape Fear shiner. It's also being propagated in some of the fish hatcheries and being released back into the wild. So even though it's on an endangered list, its status is fairly stable, we do believe. Now, when I go to my doctor, he knows what I do. Like going to the Amazon, he'll always say, see any new species, catch any new species? Well, in the Amazon, yes, I do. But are there any new ones in North Carolina have never been discovered before? No. We know everything that's here, but not everything has a scientific name. So what we're doing is working with these long-known fishes and trying to get them formally described. So they might receive some protection, but also anything we get new is being done by people who use DNA and that sort of thing to split a common fish into maybe different species. They're unique, they're genetically distinct, but they're now new. But these are 2, quote, new fishes. The thin-lipped chub on the left, we've known about it for 70 years. no, that's yeah, 70 years. And no, 50, I'm sorry, I got my math wrong here. Again, I was not the one that found this. I was like number 2 on the list. It's common, well, it's not common anymore. It was common in the Black and South Rivers in Sampson County and over in Little River by Fayetteville. Now it's uncommon in the Black and South Rivers, primarily because of the impacts from hurricanes and hog spills and animal farm spills. This was, again, discovered about 50 years ago. A famous ichthyologist who is now deceased said he's going to describe it, going to work on it. So everybody backed off and let him work on it. Well, he passed away, but before he did, he contacted Bryn Tracy and said, how about you working on this fish? And so Bryn and I worked together on this thing, and about 2 years ago, we formally described it and gave it a real name. It's called Leptochilus, which means thin lip. And it had been known as a thin lip chub for decades, but Bryn really likes to add Native American names, and the Siouan was a tribe over the Lake Waccamaw area, so he added that. I'm not sure it'll be accepted. There's an organization called the American Fishery Society that has standardized common names, and so people across the country will call them the same thing. So hopefully, they'll agree to use the Siouan thin lip chub, but I bet they'll just go with thin lip. This guy on the right is not found around here. I just put it up here because it's a cool fish and it's a cool name. This also was known for about 40 years. It was discovered in the Little Tennessee River out near Franklin in Bryson City. It's a big fish. It's a couple of feet long and quite large. It's one of the red horses. There's about a dozen red horse species in North Carolina. And this one, the Cherokee land is out there, and they knew about this fish for many years. And this is a name they gave it, Yugidatli, which means feather, which refers to the feather-like extension on the dorsal fin. And we liked it the scientists who described it liked it so much that they gave it that name. And the common name is sickle fin red horse for the same reason, because it has a sickle fin shaped dorsal fin. So moving out of the minnows into the suckers, we got 10 species of suckers in our region. Again, we got about 3 species of red horses down here, big fish. Now, these make spawning runs up into the creeks in the spring and stuff. And the early settlers used to harvest these things for food as a good source of protein. I've been told they're good eating, but they have a lot of interstitial bones, which makes them hard to clean. The creek chub sucker is a common inhabitant of the swampy areas in our creeks down here. The spotted is more in the big river fish. And this little guy, brassy, and the word is jump rock. It's up in more of the Piedmont region of the area. Maybe getting to some fish you may recognize as being fish. The 2 on the left are sport fishes, the white catfish and channel catfish. The 2 on the right are cousins, the snail and flat bullheads. They are distinguished by this black blotch in the dorsal fin. And they're told apart by the color of the barbels and light here, and whoops, way ahead of myself. And the black up here, and the shape of the anal fin is different. That's rounded, and this is the elongated one. These are kind of you'll see up in the Piedmont region. But we also have some bad ones. Now these are not native to our area. These were stocked, probably with good intention, by the Wildlife Resources Commission back in the late 60s. They are native to the Mississippi Valley area, and they're stocked as sport fish. And I've had some somewhat heated discussions with sport fishermen about the value of the flathead catfish, because I'm totally anti it. It gets large, It has a large mouth. It eats about anything it gets its mouth on. The native catfish populations have plummeted because of this guy. It eats sunfishes. It's even documented to eat a small sturgeon. The blue catfish is almost as bad, though it does eat the invasive Asiatic clam. But it gets quite large, and it's a big fishery for it out in Albemarle Sound. But these are bad news. Now, all these catfishes so far have what's called their adipose fin. There's one back here. It's separated from the tail fin. So I'm going to show you some dwarf called mad toms. The difference is all mad toms, the adipose fin is continuous with the caudal fin. You can see it's just continuous. It's not separated. So the top two are common ones in our region. The margin mad tom's more in the rocky areas. The tadpole is more in the swampy. This one gets about 3 inches long. Same thing, that's about maybe 4 or 5 inches. But we also have some new species down here, meaning these two don't have formal names yet, even though they've been known about for a long time. The Lake Waccamaw broadtail was discovered by UNC personnel back in the late 70s. It was commonly found under debris, in bottles, in cans, that sort of thing. I could go over to the lake reliably and just wade around and pick up cans and find at least one each trip. The last one I saw was back about 2002, I believe it was. And I'd go back every year looking for it and never saw it. And then right around the COVID time, I think it was 2020, a class from coastal Carolina in Conway came up and they found 2 of them and sent me a picture, and I got real excited. And I said, "Are you still at the lake?" And they said, "No, we got back in Conway." So they let them go. And then the Wildlife Commission started looking for them, and I'd started looking for them with the commission. And I put out a series of upside down flower pots that had a little notch in them to try to make them a home that he would come to. So I've been going over there for way too long, about once a month, checking my flower pots. I would get this guy reliably and crayfish, but I never saw a Waccamaw broadtail. And then maybe 3 years ago, WRC was over there with their shock boat, and they got one by one of the piers. So that's 3 since 2002. And then it was, I think, either early last spring of 24 or early this spring. I'd get fuzzy on the dates. I was emptying my flower pots out into my dip net, and this guy slid out. And I went, "Huh, well, it's about time." I didn't jump up and down or scream. I just went, "Huh, about time." So we photographed and put it back. And then this past spring, WRC was doing some surveys for it and others and found 2 more. So they're still in the lake, albeit in very small numbers. So there's still some hope for them. This one, the Cape Fear, this was the one that was originally found by a man from the museum up in Raleigh, who also was first one to find the thin-lip chub. I think I was number 2 on the list again, finding this thing. I could reasonably find it up in the South River up until about 2002. I've been up a few other times. You need low water up to find it because these things are found in small. South Rivers can be a deep river unless you're in drought conditions. And then 2002, I saw about 6 of them up there, but have not seen them since that time. So I'm kind of concerned about the status of this guy because either the flatheads have decimated them or the hurricanes have impacted them. When we went back a couple years ago, it wasn't just the mad toms that were gone. All the little shiners, everything else that was abundant back in early days, they were pretty much disappeared also. Again, These are new. They do not have a scientific name yet, and to blame for that is me. I'm trying to work with this and a couple other things. So eventually they'll get a name. Pickerels and mud minnows. The chain pickerel is a sport fish to some people. The redfin pickerel doesn't get very big, but it's a very attractive little fish. And then the mud minnow, it's a relative of both of these guys, and it's much smaller than it. It's only about 1 inch long or 2 inches long at the most. And it hides out in the swampy vegetation and the muddy areas, as the name implies. Silver sides, there are 5 of them. I don't know why it's all got cut off. There are 5 species. 3 of them are more estuarine or marine type fishes. These are the 2 interesting ones. The one, the bottom right, is another federally listed species. It's the Waccamaw silverside, found only in Lake Waccamaw, nowhere else in the world. And you can see this was a female. We kind of squeezed her a little bit too hard when we were taking her photograph. This one is interesting. It's an invasive also, but it's a natural invasive. When I did the South Carolina book, there are a lot of records of this species just over the border into South Carolina. And then we were doing some work in the Waccamaw River up around the dam, and we started catching these guys. And it's like, what are they doing here? We started looking around more and found them down in the Waccamaw River. We found them in the lake, and we actually found them in the Cape Fear somehow. Somehow they got into the Cape Fear. It's an attractive little thing. We think that it had moved up into the state after the large hurricanes we had back in the 80s and 90s when everything was flooded. They're not strong swimmers, but they could have gone up through along the shoreline and worked their way up into the lake. That's about the only thing we could come up with. And we were concerned when they got into the lake that they might compete with the Waccamaw silverside, which is, endangered. But as it turns out, in the lake, the Waccamaw silverside is an open water fish, and the green silverside likes the shallows with all the vegetation and rushes and things. So this is a benign invasion, unlike the catfishes. A couple of oddball families. The pirate perch for a long time was considered to be just one fish, and only fish species in that family, found along from up in New Jersey, along the coast, along the Gulf, up in the Mississippi Valley. But a graduate student who's now at NC State did a lot of investigation into the genetics of these things and morphology and patterns, and he split them up into 5 species. And ours up here is called the black striped pirate perch. There is a thin black stripe that it's unique to this species. And so and this guy, the swampfish, this belongs to the cavefish family. Daggone it. These buttons are really close together. So, but the cool thing about both these species is that when they're born, the anus is right here like in most fish, the vent. If you ever cleaned a fish, you know what I'm talking about. But both of these, as they mature, they grow, the anus moves forward till in the adult, it's right up here in the throat region, right up in there. And the scientific name for the pirate perch is Aphroditorus, which means excrement throat. So that's just kind of nasty, right? But we've always sort of wondered, what's the benefit of this? Well, some laboratory studies done in Illinois and then some field observations in South Carolina found out that the pirate perch, it likes to hide along the shoreline in the root masses that are there, and it will back its way into the root mass, make a little nest, and have its head sticking out, waiting for some prey to go by. Well, if its head's sticking out, it means its throat's sticking out. So anytime it wants to defecate, it goes right into the water column and doesn't mess up its home, its nest. So there's some benefit for that. The swamp fish, this is one I studied back in the 70s when I was in Morehead City, and the other members of the family are in caves. This is the only member that's really out in the open, but its eyes are much reduced. It moves like a salamander. It's mostly nocturnal. And I was hoping to find eggs. I went out there weekly in the spring trying to find what was going on. Never did find any eggs, but we kind of think that this it has a big lower jaw, large mouth, and some of the cavefish species are mouth brooders. So we kind of guess that that's what this does. I know other people, some hobbyists, have tried to breed it with no success. So that's still an unanswered question. One of my favorite family are the killifishes. There are 9 species here. Again, some of these are more saltwater, estuarine. If you ever bought mud minnows as bait for saltwater fish, it's a killifish. It's called the mummy chug. The 2 on the right are considered to be natives. The line top minnow is a beautiful little fish found from here all the way down to Florida. This is the male. The females have lateral stripes on it. The Waccamaw killifish, the bottom right, again, it's unique to Lake Waccamaw. It's state protected. It's very common there. And its closest relative is in the Cape Fear River, actually, called a banded killifish. The 2 on the left are interesting. The golden top minnow, like the good green silverside, was not known from this state until I collected the first one in a tributary. Woohoo, finally got one off the Waccamaw River. But it has also worked its way slowly up the Waccamaw. It's in Lake Waccamaw now. It's a beautiful, it makes a great aquarium fish, and we don't see any problems with it. The bluefin killifish for many, many years was only known from Burnt Mill Creek in the reservoir. And then the closest populations were 2 in Charleston, and then farther down in Georgia, Florida. So we always guessed that it was an introduction by a hobbyist, dumped them out in Burnt Mill Creek, downtown Wilmington, basically. So that's what we fought for many years. And even though it's only in one spot, we never put any state protection on it. Well, recently, a friend of mine, Pete Price, also likes to go out and dip net around, catch fish. He found several populations up in tributaries of the Northeast Cape Fear River. So we're not sure how they got there. I mean, so some of the places are duck ponds, but one is a natural creek, I think a tributary of Rockfish Creek. And we don't know how it got in there. So we're not sure now of the origin of these native here or are they introductions. But there's no danger with them. I mean, but they're a very common aquarium fish. Similar to that are the live bearers. If you're walking along a road, you're looking into the ditch, you see schools of little fish. That's the top fish, the mosquito fish, Gambusia. They live anywhere, tolerate anything. The females on the left, for some reason in this part of the state, we have a lot of our males being melanistic. Normally they're the same color as the female, but this is a melanistic one. If you go over by the state ports and dip around, you'll find a number of these melanistic ones. We're not sure why they do that. Sailfin molly is more of an estuarine species, but it just gets up in North Carolina here and up into Carteret County. The least killifish, it's not a killifish, but it's a live bear. This is the smallest vertebrate in North America and probably one of the 2 smallest vertebrates in the world. It's a female, obviously blown out of shape. She's about a ½ inch long. And the male gets to be about 1/4 inch long. We thought for quite a while that they just were really rare in southeast North Carolina, but I'm finding more populations around here. And then Pete, where he got that bluefin killifish, he found a lot of least killifish up there too. So they're more abundant than we thought. Some larger fish, which you might recognize. White perch is a very common estuarine species. It's also very abundant in Lake Waccamaw. The white bass has been stocked by the Commission up in Jordan Lake. And then the bottom right, I didn't put the striped bass in my migratory fish category. This also could be another full talk about this thing. It does make migrations in the river, but it's just up and down the river, as far as we know. It does not go into the ocean. And again, I could talk a long time about this one, but I'm not going to. I like my little fish better. Get into the more advanced fishes, the sunfishes and bass. 3 of these you've probably never ever seen. The upper left, the flyer, it gets larger. It's becoming a semi-popular sport fish now. Not much meat on it, but it gets, up to about 5-6 inches. Beautiful fish, greenish, a lot of spots on it. The young have that attractive oscillated spot in the back. The mud sunfish maybe gets about 4 inches, extremely secretive in the swamps and in vegetation. And the bottom 2, I call them the dwarf sunfishes. They're popular aquarium fishes, particularly in Europe. There's a third one called the banded, just as pretty as these 2. The blue spot is very common in this area, and that's a male. And then the black banded, less common, and this barely gets into the state in this part of the world. But these are some you probably know. Again, going back to the standardized common names, these are the accepted common names, although the upper left goes by robin. The red-breast sunfish goes by robin. The term brim covers a lot of things, but the brim probably mostly covers the bluegill. And then warmouth can be called goggle eye. And then the red ear sunfish is shellcracker. And I mentioned most of these photographs are done by Jesse and Scott. I take credit for this one. Whoops, gotta get back here, I gotta show it off more. And then actually, Jesse said this is his favorite photograph in the book. So this is the Cape Fear fish caught right below Lock and Dam 1. And then we have some basses. The largemouth bass, commonly fished for, and the black crappie, another common sport fish. The one on the right is coming into the state. It is nasty. The Wildlife Commission did not stock it this time. Perhaps well-meaning fishermen, or maybe not well-meaning, brought it up into the state from the Alabama area. The reason it's bad, this fish has no morals. It will spawn with any other bass it comes across. And we have some unique basses in the state, particularly on the west. There's a new one called Bartram's bass that we're trying to protect, but this dude likes to go around and have sex with anybody. So, bad. And getting into some of to me, the cooler fish, the darters. You may have heard about darters, the famous snail darter in Tennessee that stopped the construction. Well, no, didn't stop it. Slowed down the construction of a TVA dam. We have a number of darters, 7 to 9, depending how you recognize the names. There are some beautiful darters in the mountains. I just did a trip to Tennessee and Kentucky in late May, early June. There's some gorgeous darters out there. Ours, at least these ones, they're kind of drab compared to them, but they're near and dear to my heart. The Waccamaw darter, again, unique to Lake Waccamaw, along with the killifish and the silver side. The swamp darter, as the name applies, it's in the swampy areas, as is the sawcheek darter. Piedmont is more in the rockier streams that we have in the Piedmont. Just to show, the one on the right is not found here, but I want to show you, we do have some really pretty darters in the state. The closest we have to being attractive, and the photograph doesn't do it justice, is the pine woods. There's a lot of blue wash along the back in here. If it's on a blue background, white background, you'd see it. Pine woods darter, it's only found in the sand hills in North Carolina, along with the sand hills chub. There was one spot in South Carolina, but it's no longer there. And their close cousin sport fish is the yellow perch. Now, a group that's really near and dear to my heart are these large sunfishes. You got to be about 1 inch long, 2 inches long. Upper left is another one of my photographs I'm proud of. Everglades pygmy sunfish. It gets as far north as, I guess, Brunswick County, as far north as, no, it's up in the game lands, Holly Shelter game lands. It's probably it does occur all the way down to Florida and along on the Gulf a little bit. But based on DNA, this is probably going to be a different species at some point when it gets split out. The banded pygmy sunfish, it's widely distributed from here down along the Gulf, up in Mississippi Valley. It's a lot, it gets up to about 2 inches sometimes, and those light areas in between the dark can be really a brilliant gold when you first catch it. And the bottom one, this is my favorite fish for a couple of reasons. I found it in the 70s when I was sneaking off after work into the green swamp area in Brunswick County. It's really uncommon. It's known from the green swamp, Juniper Creek area, in the Waccamaw game lands, the green swamp game lands, and several spots in South Carolina. So it's very, very rare, and it's very beautiful. And I found this when I was a graduate student, and I contacted an expert in this family up in Pennsylvania, Jim Belke, and asked what I had. And he said, well, you got a new species here, bud, and you want to work on it together? And I said, yeah, sure, you're a big man, I want to do it. So we started to work on the description of it, and unfortunately he passed away. And so I was left it with, and I asked a buddy of mine to help me with it. So we worked it up, we described it in the early 80s, and we called it the Carolina pygmy sunfish, and we named it after him. It's Elosoma belkii, named after Jim. So I was out with the Wildlife Commission this spring doing assessment of the populations. It's still doing well in the green swamp area, highly protected areas. So I have high hopes that it'll remain for quite a while. And the last group I want to just touch on are the estuarine fishes that we have in our basin. We get, on our website, we get questions from people like, what is this fish? I found this fish, particularly maybe in the Wilmington area or in the lower part of the rivers. That's fresh water, but they've never seen anything like it before. And invariably, it's this guy up here. It belongs to the sleeper family, which are related to the gobies. And then a cousin of it is this spiny cheek sleeper, which is also is found in the freshwater aspects of where rivers have tide. And a really common one is this hog choker. It's often sold as freshwater flounder in pet stores. It is everywhere. I mean, it occurs in the ocean all the way up. Years ago, we had a project where we were looking for eel elvers, or even the glass eel stages, DMF, and we had a net set up in a Smith Creek on the Carr Avenue, and we got thousands of little baby pinfish, thousands of baby hog chokers, and a few hundred eels, but it's a very common fish. And then most of you should know what this guy is, and we would find the young way up in the Black River and way up in the Northeast Cape Fear. It's in Sutton Lake, so it has a very strong freshwater tolerance. So I get asked not all the time, but in case you ask me, this is how we do a lot of our photography. It varies, it's evolved over time. The simplest one we used to do is with just a simple photo tank, and we have a little piece of glass in there that holds the fish close to the front, and then the background is black in this case, and that's Scott taking the photograph, and that's Bryn Tracy advising me on what to do. We've also tried using white backgrounds and flashing the flashes off them, and then we even do larger ones. This is up in the mountains. It's a walleye. We have for the larger fish, we shoot straight down on them. We have some flashes coming off the very sides, and a white background below and a white background on the other side. So, I mean, we can take something like this out into the Amazon, and we have carrying cases, and we take distilled water with us and all sort of things to photograph these things. But it takes time, it takes work, and Scott and Jesse are excellent using Photoshop to get the photographs to look like the way they look. And I'm done. So.